Welcome back to another episode of Hondo's Blockbuster. I am here with a brand new review of one of my all-time favorite movie franchises. Excited to talk about Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning. Got my poster right here from the premiere. Pretty much straight out of there after watching the Cats win, dominating performance over Carolina. But we are here to talk movies. I can't wait to talk about this one. Very interesting. I'll get into some of the good and the bad, but I'm going to start with a little bit of a non-spoiler part of it. So if you haven't seen it, you don't need to go away yet, but I will mark when I will be talking about the spoilers, because there's some things that I really do want to talk about that lean more into that spoiler heavy, and I don't want to ruin it for people. So I'll just jump right into it. I really love this movie. This movie is, I know it's getting a lot of mixed reception. I understand why, because I do believe that the first half is much slower than most Mission Impossibles. It's also really clunky. It's really slow in terms of some of the pacing and long exposition. But it also jumps really quickly, in the first 10 minutes to different things that are happening. It's almost okay, whoa, what's going on here? But it felt a little bit strange in that first half. It took a little bit to get its footing, but holy cow, when it caught its footing, it absolutely takes off. I mean, this movie's second half is an absolute blast. It's exactly what you want for a Mission Impossible franchise. Obviously, if a lot of people are going to this movie. I'm going for this movie for a lot of different reasons, but one of the main reasons is Tom Cruise and his crazy ass doing these insane stunts for our viewing pleasure, and holy cow, does he deliver in this one. Again, first half, a little shaky. I was okay, I don't know if I'm vibing with this, and then boom, there's one point in the movie, it really just kind of puts its pedal to the metal, and it takes off. So overall, I really enjoyed it. I'm a huge fan of this franchise, and I think that if you're a fan of this franchise, I think you'll enjoy it more than most. I think if you're not normally a big Mission Impossible fan and you're just looking for a normal action blockbuster or something, I still think you'll enjoy it. But I think that the fact that I love this franchise so much, and there's a lot of callbacks to some of the other movies, I think I got more out of it. But overall, I still think it's a very good, very enjoyable movie, and it's definitely an absolute thrill ride, that second half. So, if you at this point, that's as non-spoiler, because there's a lot of things I want to talk about are going to be in that spoiler territory. So I'm going to, just to be safe, I'm going to keep that for the spoilers. But my non-spoiler review, if you're a fan of Mission Impossible, you should absolutely go watch this one. It's, just as fun as any of the other ones. In terms of the big action spectacle and stunts. The tone is a bit more somber than most. Mission Impossible is outside of, big action, big stunts. It's a very fun franchise. This movie's fun in a different way, but it's way more somber than you might think or expect, which I'll get into a little bit later. But overall, I highly recommend this movie. I definitely think this is one of those movies where when people say go to the theaters to watch this and experience it in theaters, go check it out in theaters. I mean, I caught it at the IMAX at Sunset Place. If you have an IMAX anywhere near, go watch it on IMAX. That, just the last really 30, 40, probably 30 minutes of that movie alone are worth to go see this movie on the big screen. So with that, spoilers starting now. Spoilers alert. Let's get into it. All right, we are in spoiler territory now. I'm going to cut this into two sections. I'm going to go, it's pretty simple. What I liked and what I didn't like about this movie. So let's start off with the stuff that I didn't really like, and then we'll end it with all the good stuff. Kind of similar to how this movie starts. Beginning, second half, let's rip. So, a couple of things. One, again, like I mentioned already, the first half does take a little bit to get going. It's very exposition heavy. They kind of hit you with the same stuff a lot, the same, not dialogue, not exactly the same dialogue, but it's basically explaining the mission in kind of different ways, but it's doing the same thing that you had just done 5 minutes ago. It was kind of strange, and with that, it just adds on a little. It kind of lags on a bit in the first half, and I think it doesn't help that I think a part of the reason why it lags and why the beginning didn't work as well for me is because of the villain of this movie. So it picks up straight from the last one, from Dead Reckoning, and it's obviously about the entity and Gabriel. And I just like the entity thing. While it's cool in concept, they do a lot of cool things with it. It just doesn't feel Mission Impossible to me. Like it felt more Mission Impossible in the last one because it was more about Gabriel. Which I'm not a huge fan of Gabriel, really, but at least like he was like a foe that you can actually face off against, right? In this one, yes, he is, but he's like pretty much absent 80% of this movie, so it's really just about Ethan trying to get the hard drive or whatever. So it's not really like him going up against anything. You have the entity there as like a loading feature. It's like, it's showing each country that it's taking over slowly by surely. I guess that's how you say it. But it's not like an actual physical threat, and it's very sci-fi in that aspect, which I'm a fan of sci-fi. But in Mission Impossible, I feel like it works better when it's an actual physical threat and it's more spy espionage. While this is still that, it's just like the villain is AI essentially. So I think that probably didn't help my first half enjoyment, because a lot of it's obviously talking about the exposition is a lot about that, about the AI and the entity kind of taking over, which again wasn't really my favorite thing. And then the other thing that happens in the beginning that I maybe have to see it again. I'm not really, from my first viewing, a fan of how Luther goes out. I love Luther. Luther's literally been a staple from the first Mission Impossible. He's been there from the very beginning. And yes, his presence is still felt throughout the movie. And I really like the monologue at the end. I think it's great. But the fact that the way that they just take him out so early, it felt strange. Because like from the last time we saw Luther, he's like, I've got to go do this thing. We don't know what that is in Dead Reckoning. Then you just pick up with him in this one a couple months later, and he's like super sick. Like he's like, looks like he's on his deathbed, and I was like, where did that come from? That was not from the last one at all. But he created, essentially this virus. But like I wasn't a huge fan of, like, they kind of got rid of him super early in this movie, and I was like, dude, that's like, he's a heart and soul. And I get it adds to that, but like it just, for me, it felt a little quick and rushed and kind of weird situation. So wasn't a huge fan of that. But again, it's all in the beginning. It's all in the beginning. The first hour, maybe hour and a half, I don't know. It is a long movie, but it didn't really feel that long. The first half you definitely feel a little bit, but the second half flies by. Another kind of like, not necessarily a full negative, but something that felt a bit more off than usual is the team itself. I felt like didn't really have as much to do, in the sense of like they play a very important role, but they don't really have like that much screen time, and they're mainly, for the most of the movie, they're not with Ethan. So they're on their own, and like it's cool that Benji's kind of leading them, but it feels weird when they're not with Ethan and interacting. Like the whole point or one of the main like character features of Ethan Hunt is that he's essentially will do anything to protect his team, and when you remove the team from him, it doesn't flow as well. And I think that's why some of the fun is taken away, because a lot of those fun moments from the other movies are from those interactions, and in this one they're more separate, so it feels a bit off. It's not that the performances are bad. I think Haley Atwell's great, Simon Pegg's great, Palm, I'm not going to pronounce the last name, is great. It's just they feel a little disconnected from what makes Mission Impossible. The other thing that was really strange to me was making Shea Wiggum's like character Jim Phelps Jr. That was weird, right? Like that was super random, kind of unnecessary. Like it really didn't really play into it until like, I guess like there's like this revenge factor, but like everyone knows his dad was the bad guy of Mission Impossible 1. So like it really played no part. Like it had no actual reasoning for it. And I really liked their dynamic in Dead Reckoning, but in Final Reckoning it was really weird. Like it was kind of like what's it called? Like the the anger for him kind of ramped up a little bit just to make him like Jim Phelps Jr. I don't know. That was kind of weird. Strange. And then the other strange thing that just popped in my head, I think this is the first Mission Impossible. Like, do they even do a face reveal in this? Like, I don't think they use any masks at all in this movie. Like, that's what I mean when I say, like, it doesn't, at points, it doesn't feel like a full Mission Impossible movie. Like, it feels like another, like a big sci-fi action franchise. But the first half, like, it just doesn't have that Mission Impossible feel. But then the second half, it does more. But still, yeah, no face reveal. That's kind of shocking. I think that's probably the first one without a face reveal. So, strange. But yeah, that was a little weird for me. And then yeah, again, like it's more. I think it's more of a villain problem than anything. If I had to, give my criticism to it, Gabriel, again, he was a bit more cartoonish in this one. I wasn't like a huge fan of him in Dead Reckoning. I'm even less of a fan of him in this one. Obviously, at the ending plane sequence, which we'll definitely get to, it's kind of fun. Like he's kind of like, it's fun the back and forth of him and Ethan, I guess, but like he felt like extra cartoonish in this one, and again, like the beginning was jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping, and then all of a sudden he's captured with Gabriel there, and then like that whole sequence, it just felt really weird. It just felt weirdly paced. So because of that, like it took me a little bit to get into the movie fully, but when it does, it absolutely kicks off, and that's going to lead us right into the good and what I've actually really enjoyed about it, and what makes me really love this movie is the second half. Like once Ethan, all the exposition kind of stuff happens, and Ethan goes onto the carrier, but then even goes on to the it's really when he enters the first submarine with I believe the actor's name is Tillman. He's the guy from Severance. He's amazing. Like, he's not in it very long, but his presence is so good, and he's so good in Severance that I don't know. I'm just such a big fan of him already that I think it added to his character here. But I thought he was great in the movie. But I think from that point on is when it feels more like a Mission Impossible movie. And it's a blast. The two big sequences, and what most people are going to be talking about, are going to be the submarine sequence, which is edge of your seat. You're just kind of anxious. Ethan's like going from different tubes and the water's like shifting around. It's so well done. So well done. Shout out to Christopher McQuarrie and the whole team for not only that stunt, then you get to the plane stunt, which is at the end. And I was wondering if they would be able to top, like for me, my favorite scene/stunt is the Burj Khalifa in Ghost Protocol, but this one, and it's a long sequence. Like it just gets crazier and crazier, and Tom Cruise is hanging from planes, and the plane's upside down, and he's dangling off it, and it's all shot so well because it's practical, and he's there. He's like doing these stunts for us. And it pays off. I mean, this is why you go to the movies. This is what, like, those two scenes alone are worth the price of admission, and it's really, those two scenes specifically are really why I left the theater so happy and excited to talk about it, even with more negatives that I think I have for a lot of Mission Impossibles. And I'll get to my ranking. Probably my next video you're going to see is going to be a full ranking, and I'm very curious to see where I'm going to end up putting this one. But in terms of, I think this one has more negatives than most, but like these two scenes, oh my god, I mean, I was just smiling from ear to ear when I'm seeing Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt dangling from this plane. Again, alone, worth the price of admission. Another one of my favorite things that this movie did was tie in with a lot of the other movies. And as somebody who just did a full Mission Impossible rewatch, there's a lot of things that I caught that just, one, put a smile on my face, but two, it was like, oh, that's what they're referencing. Like, no, did they plan this from the beginning? Absolutely not. But, like, it's still fun that they're able to tie it in with the entire franchise and make this really feel like a closing out of sorts. Although, this might not be the last one. It kind of left it at a point where it could be, but it also left it where it absolutely could continue if they want to. But in terms of a culmination of all the movies before it, I think it does a really good job in tying in some things. And one of the things two things on my rewatch. One of them is Mission Impossible 3 when they're talking about the rabbit's foot. They mention, Benji's mentioning it's the anti-god, and it's like more, it could be like this world-ending technology. And when I was watching it on the rewatch, I'm like, I wonder if they're gonna tie that in any way to the entity. And boom, they do. Like basically, Ethan is responsible for the entity because of him, essentially getting the rabbit's foot to save Julia. So I caught that, and that was before I even saw this movie. So I was like, I wonder if they're gonna tie it in, and they do. And the second one, I don't know his name, but it's the guy from the first Mission Impossible when Ethan does the famous break to Langley. And the knife falls, and it's the guy that they basically are getting to throw up, and they're using his codes and stuff. He makes a return, and I loved his inclusion in this movie. Like, I love that story because when I was rewatching, this is something I would not have caught if I hadn't done the rewatch. Like, maybe I would have recognized the guy, but like in the first Mission Impossible, they even talk about, I think, Kid Rich. God, I'm mispronouncing his name, but Kid Rich. He mentions in the first movie, he's like, send that guy to like Siberia or Alaska or something right now, like today. And they actually do. Like in this movie, he's there. Like he's on this remote little island, freezing island that he's just been monitoring forever since the first one. And it's a cool little tie-in thing. And then I like what he brought to the team. And he's basically like, it's kind of full circle moment. And Ethan even tells like, I'm so sorry. He's like, no, like thank you. Because like without this, I wouldn't, I found my wife, and you see his life is he's living his little life, but he's enjoying it. So I liked his inclusion in this. So I will wrap out the good with, you can't talk about Mission Impossible without talking about Tom Cruise outside of the stunts, by the way. I've glowed about the stunts and whatever. He absolutely embodies this character. Ethan Hunt in this movie is it's more like he's way more like, I think he has a lot more emotional moments. Like he's crying a lot in the beginning of the first half, and like he's not the same fun. And I kind of touched on it when I talked about the team aesthetic, like where it kind of separated a little bit of the fun. But Tom Cruise is Tom Cruising it up. Like he's so intense and taking this so seriously in this huge blockbuster that it just makes you even more engaged, and you're feeling the threat through him. Even though they're like, the entity, there's not a physical force, but you're feeling everything, the weight of the world's shoulders falling on Ethan's head or shoulders, I guess. But Tom Cruise absolutely kills it. He's made for this role. He's, the father of cinema. He's saving the theaters himself, and for him alone, you should go see this movie because it's the absolute ultimate theater movie. Like if you're telling me like what movie should I go see in the theaters that you have to catch on theaters, I don't want to watch at home, it's movies like this. Like it's big spectacle, big practical stunts, and Tom Cruise, shout out to him. I mean, he's dedicated, his craft to this, and he's willing to lay his life on the line to bring us entertainment. So shout out to Tom Cruise. He's as good as ever in this movie. All right, so with all that, time to give it a rating. This one's a little tougher for me. As I mentioned earlier, it's got a little bit more negatives than I thought I would have. It's probably got a little bit more negatives than some of the other Mission Impossibles top of mind. But that just second half alone left me leaving the theater with such a big smile on my face that, listen, I enjoyed it. I had a great time at the movies. Tom Cruise, you did it again. I'm giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. Very good movie, very enjoyable. If you love action movies, go see it in theaters. Just for the stunt alone, it's worth price of admission. So 4 stars, good movie. Can't wait to see it again. I definitely want to see it again. Maybe some of the flaws, will erase in my mind. But after first viewing, I again really enjoyed it. Looking forward to it, and yeah, if you made it this far, please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think of the movie. And then stay tuned. Like, we got a lot of stuff coming, and a Mission Impossible rankings is probably going to be the next video. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for listening. And hey, Tom Cruise, we love you, man. You did it again.